Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of Wear Many Hats. I'm your host, Mark Robinson. As you can tell, I've been working on my introduction. Hope you liked it. Anyway, I'm really pleased today. We've got an incredibly exciting, sorry the guest's laughing, which is making me laugh. We've got an incredibly exciting podcast for you here. We've got Frank Osborne, who's the head of property and facilities at the Academy of Medical Sciences. Hello, Frank. How you doing?
I'm very well, Mark. Very well, Ethan. Thank you very much for having me. It's great to be here.
How's the day going?
Day is going well. I'm here, so it's ended very well.
That's good.
No, it's going very well. Everything's going along nicely, I think.
Did you like my introduction?
I didn't know what to expect. I really liked it. It's a lot of gravitas in the voice.
Well, I've got an actor in the room. I've got to try and, as a professional, I've got to put my best foot forward, as they say, Frank.
I'm impressed. Very impressed.
Yeah. Well, I did play the Dodger once in the school play, and I did get rave reviews, to be fair.
Did you really?
Do you want me to sing you the song? I'm joking.
That will make the end credits.
Yeah, we'll do the end credits. Yeah. Okay, well, listen, obviously, as you can probably tell, listeners, Frank has got a very interesting career. Used to be an actor. Tell us a little bit about your career, how you got into the world of work, how that's transitioned. Let's go.
Sure. So, it all started really. So, I trained as an actor.
Yep.
The Central School of Speech and Drama, and I graduated in 2010. Eek. That's a long time ago. And it was pretty good going after I left drama school, but then, as many actors will probably tell you, the phone just stops ringing. And you're
really?
Like, okay, so, yeah.
100%. What's that like? Because it must have been your dream to be an actor. Is that quite a difficult thing to come to terms with?
Oh, yeah. It took me years.
Really?
It took me years, up until actually probably very recently. I think there's a point where you go, I'm done, and then you revisit it.
Yeah.
And I'm done, and you revisit it. It's only when you make that call and tell your agent, listen, I'm actually done. You got to take me off the books because I'm really done with it. Yeah. And it's tricky. It's hard, and it was difficult to admit that to yourself.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you have to go with it full pace. And I think if you have one step in the past and one step in the future, inevitably you're not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, you get stuck. Yeah.
You get stuck. You need to release both feet and continue forward.
Right.
But it was where I did find myself in the facilities field anyway. So,
whoa, hang on a second, Frank. We need to talk about one thing. You were in a film, weren't you? And I'm sure that our listeners at some point will find it online.
Watch it. Wrong then.
So tell us a little bit about your role in. What was it called again?
It was called. I hope I get this right. They're going to figure it out. It was called Convention of the Dead.
Right.
And it's like a zombie film inspired by Shaun of the Dead.
Right.
If Shaun of the Dead was at a comic book convention.
Right, okay.
And it was really good. It was really fun. I enjoyed everyone I worked with, and the director was great, and the writing was great. Yeah. It was just fun. If you're a fan of Shaun of the Dead,
I love Shaun of the Dead.
You'd love it. Yeah, it's really good. And really nice sequences. I think there was a really good attempt to make the production value as high as possible.
Right.
It was shot in a hotel in Bournemouth.
Yeah.
And it was all night shoots. And I was there for, I think it was like 2 weeks to a month. Wow. And it was just, shooting at night. It's just really long. And I didn't actually realize until halfway through there were guests in the hotel.
Oh, really? While you were doing it?
Yeah, while we were doing it. And there's like shouting, there's screaming, there's blood everywhere.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, are the guests not complaining? And but they put them in the other part of the hotel.
Ah.
But we were shouting pretty loud. But anyway, yeah. So it was really fun, and it did make a release at some point.
Did it?
Yeah.
Where can you find Convention of the Dead these days then? And what were you a central character?
No, I was. I don't know if you've seen Star Trek, but I was a red shirt.
So you were one of the ones that died.
Exactly. Yeah. The trope with the red shirt is in Star Trek.
Yeah.
The guys wearing the red shirts are the ones that
they're the ones that get killed. Yeah. The security personnel that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They're the ones that croak it early. But I had a really good death.
Oh, go on. How was your death?
It was fantastic. It was great. So, firstly, I was bit in the neck because and then we go to this little kind of room to try and fortify the room.
Yeah.
And I'm there, and I sacrifice myself to let the others go. And it's fantastic. I get my stomach ripped open. It's It was great. It was so good. We had to get it in like 3 or 4 shots because we couldn't reshoot it. We couldn't like reset and do it again.
So did you become a zombie after that?
No, I just got eaten alive.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you didn't even get to eat anybody?
Torn apart. Absolutely torn apart. The stomach, it was really good. It was really good, but it's all corn syrup.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
So after a while, it's just sickly sweet, and you're like, I need to get over it, done with. But no, it was really good fun. I need to check that out.
I'm going to. Where can I find it?
I have no idea.
I bet I can find it on YouTube.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm getting all nervous now.
Yeah. Hey, listen, you might see like the viewership of it go up after the podcast is released.
If I can get the viewership up on that film, it would be absolutely fantastic. Yeah. But that was I mean, a few other music videos and stuff like that. But
oh, brilliant.
It was the main thing that kind of kept me going. Because you can either sit there and wait for the phone to ring, and for some people it works and some people it doesn't.
Yeah.
For me, it was a case of if there's no work coming in, let's make work.
Yeah.
So I started a theatre company called Writer's Block, and we specialised of new writers.
Right. Okay.
So if it's new plays or if it's monologues or short scenes, I'm a big fan of comedy. Yeah. So it was nice to see 2-hand scenes coming in and doing those scenes.
Right.
And I was working. We were operating. I think at our height, we were operating about 6 different theatres across London. Which
really?
Was really cool. Yeah, it was really fun.
That's really impressive.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was lots of fun. I mean, I was responsible for absolutely everything, like running the website, choosing the directors, the writers, the actors.
And that was your business?
It was, well, didn't make any money. But it was fantastic to work with all those different writers and directors.
It kept you in the space that you kind of wanted to...
Exactly. Kept me in the space, kept me in those circles and surrounded myself with the people that I want to be surrounded by. And I was speaking with one of the artistic directors and he said to me that, everything you're doing now is kind of like, if you were to transfer it into the more professional world, I mean, the theatre world is professional, but
yeah, of course.
It would be you're looking at kind of facilities and operations. That's the kind of thing. I think you'd be really good at that.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, okay. And
it's quite an interesting segue into FM then, really.
Yeah, really interesting. And
so you've been a zombie.
I was a zombie.
You've been ripped out, stomach up, guts everywhere. Next thing you know, it doesn't sound very dissimilar to other people's route into facilities. Does
it? Just strung up.
It's one of those. It's one of those industries. You got to have a little bit of intestinal fortitude, haven't you, to get into it?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. And my first facilities job was at the Young Vic Theatre. So it was actually quite a nice.
Still in the space as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was a real nice transition over, and I quickly realised that we had no budget to do anything, right. And there was no money to spend on any capital expenditure or improve the building, whatever it may be, because the focus is on the shows.
Yes.
And it was there where I kind of realised that much in the name of this podcast, Wear Many Hats, really is one of those things where you do have to wear many hats. And it varies from place to place, your roles and responsibilities and what you kind of, what you're supposed to do and what you're compelled to do in the role. But that was a nice transition over, and it's where I cut my teeth in that, if we had an engineer come out to do the aircon, I would just watch them and see exactly what they were doing. Yeah. So I then knew how to do it, and I could do it myself.
You were kind of in school then, would you say? Was that like your school of FM?
Yeah, exactly.
At the Young Vic, because that's quite an iconic building as well, isn't it?
Really iconic building. Yeah.
Because you've got the Young Vic and the Old Vic. Am I right saying that?
Yeah, Young Vic is down the street from. They're basically down the street. Yeah. They actually have. I think they might have some small connection through one or two of the departments, but for all intents and purposes, it's its own building.
And is it a listed building?
No, right. It's not. There's only one small portion of the building that's listed.
Okay.
And that is the main entrance because that has retained its heritage. It used to be a butcher's, actually.
Did it?
Yeah, it used to be a butcher's.
Right.
And most of it got blown away by the Blitz.
In World War II?
Yeah. Okay. And but they've kept it. They've kept it. I think they hope they've still kept it.
Yeah.
So that was in the Young Vic, and then from there, I was at the Royal Town Planning Institute for a small period of time as a stepping stone to my time at Matrix Chambers, as head of facilities, to my very, very new job of head of property facilities at the Academy of Medical Sciences. And that jump from the young Vic to the Academy of Medical Sciences and in between, because I spent 6 years.
You were there a significant period of time, weren't you?
Really long time. Really long time. It was a difficult thing to say goodbye to, and you spending that much time with a group of people. Probably more than your own family. You develop some strong bonds, and there's some people that obviously will stay in contact with, and develop some professional connections that I'll take with me. But that jump has really been significant, and it's something that I'm still trying to compound on and deliver on. So that's kind of really where I'm at.
So quite an interesting trajectory then in terms of your career and how you've got to where you are now.
Yeah, it has been interesting. Yeah, it's like I said before, it's kind of it was one of those things that, as I say, I was trying to have one foot in the past and one foot in the future, and it was quite difficult to move forward. And taking that step back and going, okay, I may not have been able to choose the path I'd like to follow, but another path has chosen me. So I'm going to go forward on that path. And I think once you make that conscious decision, because sometimes it can be very difficult, and you have some people that maybe realize that decision a little bit later, or maybe not even at all. But once you make that decision, I feel that the clarity of your actions become a lot more solid and a lot more bold. And I think that's come with a new trajectory. Ethan contacted me, like 8 months ago. And I apologize officially again to Ethan for not getting back to you very promptly. But it was in the middle of that mist of trying to move on further in my career and seeing how far I can kind of shoot myself.
I think that's really interesting though, because I think I think a lot of young people, when you're young, you have aspirations, you have dreams, you have things that you want to do, whether that's in the arts or sports or beauty or whatever it may be. And a lot of us, I had dreams, a lot of us grow up and unfortunately we don't achieve those dreams and we go down a different path. And I think that it's great that anybody who's listening is listening to somebody like yourself who has gone through that transition and is now doing something that they find as valuable. And, it's quite interesting that you say that it's called you, that it's a calling for you now. I think that's...
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I'm really glad that I'm being seen as a beacon of hope now. It's quite, I'm going to put that on my LinkedIn profile.
It's my job to make you look good, Frank. No, but the reason I say that is we had a really interesting conversation today because, we'd like to take the format of the podcast into schools at some point in the future, and we were kind of brainstorming what that looks like. And that came up. So it's really interesting that we have you on the podcast the day that we had that conversation. It really is interesting.
No, I think it is definitely an interesting point. And tagging on to what you said, I think everyone does have dreams. And I think that we, I'm not too sure about previous generations or even future generations, whether it'll still be the case. But it's that kind of like, you have the answer, it's in you, you can do whatever you want. And I think that's absolutely true. But I think that it's also being able to listen to your environment. Like knowing what's inside you and knowing what you want and pursuing that, but also recognizing that you're not just performing in isolation. There's an environment around you that has so many opportunities. We have, or had, I should say, at Matrix, a work experience program, in which we have work experience come in pretty much every week or every other week.
Oh, really?
And sometimes they come in and they know exactly what they want to do. I want to be a barrister. I want to be a solicitor. This is definitely the field I want to be in. Or they come in and say, I'm not so sure. I'm kind of 50-50. This is my chance to explore and find out. Absolutely, 100%. Explore. Because there may well be things that you weren't exposed to in your life that you think, this is something really great. This is something really good. And the flip side, something you think you wish you really, really want to do and want to be. you know, you turned up to the place that you want to work and think, this looks horrible.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And that could be it. So I think it's absolutely right. And that that there is that fire and that ambition.
Yeah.
But I think it should also be coupled with an ability to just listen and observe the environment that you're in.
Yeah, because I think a lot. I mean, I know people. I think everybody probably knows people whereby, you know, they were so laser focused on that thing that they wanted to do when they left school that you know, in some circumstances, they go into quite a deep dark depression because they don't achieve it, and then they're not happy or content in their lives because they're not doing what they wanted to do. So, you know, I think being able to adequately, you know, convey how to do that and how you've done it, I suppose, is a really important message, you know, because it sounds to me like what you've done is you had a particular set of skills.
Which I was really good. No one noticed.
Yeah, a particular set of skills. But what you did is you took those skills and you channeled them into a different area that you found just as compelling and just as worthwhile for you personally.
Yeah.
Would that be accurate?
No, that's 100% accurate.
Right.
Absolutely. I think... yeah, it's about you've hit the nail on the head. It's having those abilities and looking at your skill set and saying, okay, where can it be applied elsewhere in the in the environment you're in?
Yeah.
You know, I definitely have. We did a recent thing that you know, if you were to describe your colleague in one word, what would it be? Sometimes I hate those things, but we're doing it anyway.
Yeah.
And it's Frank, the one that came up. Frank says showman.
Yeah.
And I was a bit like, oh no, I'm a showman. But I was like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, I am. And I think it's a quality that you can then take away and go, right, okay, so that's a really good quality. Being in front of a business or being in front of a group or being in front of a theatre company, whatever it may be, that's a good skill. And that's something that you should see how you can apply it and where you can apply it to the best benefit to you. Yeah, no, I completely agree.
And then if anybody's misbehaving, Zombie Frank comes out and just sorts them out.
Yeah. Zombie Frank will emerge.
Zombie Frank will emerge.
That stomach pack on.
Okay, that's brilliant. Well, listen, I mean, it's great that your journey is really interesting, you know, and one of the things that we try to do with the podcast is to inspire the next generation and look at ways in which they can move into an industry that perhaps they don't really know a great deal about. You know, through your journey over the last several years, have there been any mentors that have helped you from a facilities management perspective and helped drive that ambition, I suppose?
Yeah, absolutely. So the CEO of Matrix Chambers,
right?
She was definitely an inspiration to me and definitely led me to becoming more senior in that role. Yeah. Because my previous trajectory, like I said before, previously it was more of, you know, cutting my teeth, learning the ropes. And at the Young Vic, I was operations assistant. Yeah. And at Matrix Chambers, I started as the facilities coordinator. And my predecessor, the CEO at the time, left about a year into me being at Matrix. Right. And I saw an opportunity and I thought, okay, I could obviously never be a COO because I don't have the requisite skills, but I thought to myself that I definitely enjoy working here. Yeah. And I know that I can offer a lot here. Yeah. And I know that I can learn and craft my skills here significantly.
Well, that's the key, isn't it? Given enough time, you can acquire the skills, you can learn, you can develop as a professional.
Yeah, and it's knowing where you can spend your time effectively. In that I knew that if I was to spend more time there, I would definitely be in the correct environment in order to learn and fail and grow and develop. Whereas a different business, it might not be the same. Like they only need you to just perform or not. And I'd said, I know I've only been here a year, but I'm really enthusiastic. I really enjoy working here, and I think I can make a really great impact. You know, if there's a more senior role available, I would love to take it, and I would jump on it and, you know, go in at 100%. And she was fantastic. And she said, okay, let's see. and I was given the head of facilities role, and there was a bit of a restructure.
Wow, year in as well.
Year in, yeah.
So
yeah.
from facilities coordinator to that's quite a jump to head of facilities, isn't
huge,
it? Yeah,
huge.
I bet that was a bit like, oh God, well, I thought she might give me an FM role, but not straight into head of facilities. I mean, that's massive.
Yeah, I was so happy. It was great.
Can I ask how old you were at that time, Frank? Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, geez, I was like 29.
It's quite a young man still.
Yeah, thank you very much.
That's all right.
Thank you, Mark.
That's all right.
It's nice to have three young men sitting in the same room.
I'm a lot older than you think, Frank.
They don't know. I did ask Mark if we're being videoed, and he said, no, it's just audio, so I didn't have to do my hair.
I just look young, that's all.
I got my moisturiser on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a huge jump. But I knew I was in a good environment, and I knew that I was surrounded by good people, led by a great CEO.
Yeah.
But I did not realise that we had COVID coming up around the corner.
Yes.
And it was head of facilities. That responsibility and that challenge was directly on my shoulders.
And was that kind of just as you transitioned into that role, or
it was still it was April 2019.
Wow.
So it wasn't immediately after.
So you had about 11 months, really.
And then there was that kind of thing of like, right, we need to do this, we need to do that, and it was hard.
Oh God, I bet. Yeah.
It was hard. It was really hard. A lot of people coming to me for answers. A lot of people coming to me for solutions, for all different variations. IT, communications, site safety, just health and safety in general. And our responsibility to the staff team and what we can offer in terms of working from home. It was a lot.
Did your business continuity strategy come into play during that period?
It did, and we were undergoing. There was also the other factors of the courts, for example.
Because they shut down as well, didn't they?
They shut down, and they announced that to all the chambers, we're going to use Skype for Business. But Skype for Business does not exist anymore.
No,
it's an
gone.
old, redundant legacy system. So then you have 100 barristers running up to me saying, we need Skype for Business. And I'm trying to explain to 100 people it does not exist. We're trying to figure this out. And that caused a huge complication in that we then discovered that our IT system, which at this point it was all very much on premises, and it was kind of like, it's working for us at the moment. And we did have a bit of a struggle between collaboration and security, because those things obviously do knock heads a lot. That our cloud system is not compatible with video conferencing.
So did you have like quite a closed protocol system then?
Yeah, it was a privately hosted cloud system that didn't support video hosting.
So you had to learn something very quickly then.
We had to change IT systems really quick.
Now that is not an easy transition.
All remote, without being on site. It was crazy. It was very, very difficult, and we had to think of workaround systems, and we just about managed to scrape through. But that was one big challenge. That having gone through it now, we've actually ended up with a much more suited system to our needs. Yeah, and we developed a very positive, and I think. Even though obviously not there anymore, a long-standing relationship with a new IT company. Yeah, of course. Which would be very fruitful. Yeah. And
so I'm guessing, did you go out and source that IT?
Yeah, so we went through our tender process. I'd been through a tender process before. Right. But this one, because it made up such a huge chunk of the budget, and it is everything we rely on. We can't do anything without it. Yeah. It was a really big deal. So we brought in...
So crucial, really, that it was right.
Yeah, absolutely. So
a lot of pressure as well, actually, Frank, I would say, on a young person's shoulders, really.
It was a lot of pressure and lots of contracts to go through. I'm quite tech savvy, but there's certain things that I had to learn, and certain things that I didn't even know that we needed to consider. And the tender process for that, even though we needed to act quickly, it needed to be thorough and it needed to be correct, because we didn't want to end up with a system that would break.
Of course,
year down the line. So that was a really big challenge. And it was definitely, I would lie if I was to say that it was really easy and really straightforward and I just sailed through it, but it was tough.
Yeah.
It was really tough. But as I said before, luckily I was in a good environment with good supporters team, and we managed to get through it. Yeah.
Fantastic. So that's obviously quite a large initiative that you were involved in at Matrix. What initiatives have you been involved in or led from a sustainability perspective?
So there was, we do have the Green Committee at Matrix Chambers.
Okay.
So we work on lots of different parts of the business. And the areas in which I've had the most input, well, the main thing obviously is going green.
Yep.
So we changed our gas supplier to sustainable 100% green energy.
Right.
Fortunately, one of our buildings is completely electric, which is fantastic.
Oh, well, that's really cool.
But the other building isn't, and we have to use gas. But it's all,
Is it quite an old building? Was it quite an old building?
It's a listed building, yes.
Oh,
It's not,
right. Okay.
Yeah, it's an old listed building. And
so quite difficult to make an environmentally sustainable solution in those kind of buildings sometimes, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, 100%. But the switching energy was easy.
Yeah.
And there was small wins we were looking to transfer. So I'd be thinking of lots of different things that we could do. So switching our milk supply from plastic bottles to glass, which get recollected rather than thrown away.
Bring back the milkman, I say.
That's what we did. Yeah, 100%.
There's jobs for young kids there as well with a milk round.
Oh,
Bit of money in their pocket, keeps them fit,
That's it.
Get them out from in front of the PS5s and
exactly.
and all that stuff.
And we and also it's kind of like it's good that we could try and help like a local supplier, in that respect.
Yeah, of course.
Looking at our waste, how can we reduce our waste, and what small kind of different nudges can we bring in? So reduce the amount of bins, make it very difficult to buy stuff that's non-recyclable and an easier option to recycle stuff, so we can promote that. And the other thing that we really wanted to do was change the lighting to LED lighting, which is a huge one. And it's become even more important now because I think it's the T5 and T8 fluorescent tubes are banned from being distributed and to the UK from February 2024. Really? Yeah, it was something it was an EU law that was passed and put into place. So EU, it was I think it was late 2023, but it's only now the UK government has said we're gonna. So
the UK government is that impacted by Brexit or law?
No, it was something that the EU decided to put in place, and I think the UK have just picked up a little bit later.
Well, it makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, so I think that's obviously, we literally aren't going to have the light bulbs left to stay the way we are. So it's not only a green perspective, but it's also if we need to turn the lights on, we've got to go LED. But
so did you have to change the fittings as well, not just the?
Well, it depends how far you want to go into it.
Right.
But in order to make sure that the emergency lights do work as well, sometimes you can modify them. Yeah. But most of the time you have to replace the fitting as well, so the whole thing has to go.
Right.
As long as you can. So we at that time we went to several contractors and found and asked them to put together a plan in that. Okay, understood that it's going to be a big upfront cost. However, we want to do our part financially. How many years or how many months is this going to take for us to see the benefits? Yeah, and that way it's an easier justification for spending the upfront, because you still need the financial.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Because we all want to make sure we do the absolute perfect thing, but if it's going to cost an impractical amount of money, it's going to be difficult to push that forward. But with the listed buildings, I should say, I think that landlords for the longest time, because it's a listed building, you can't do anything. It's a listed building. You can't change it, so we don't need an EPC, so we don't need to move forward. So we're kind of done there. Right. And that's our responsibility done. Yeah. But it's actually what it says in law is that it's if it changes the character and the front facing of the building. So for someone to come in and change a light bulb, that's not going to change the character of the building. Oh. And in order for you to find out whether you need an EPC or not, you've just got to go through the process. And I think that's now becoming even more clear.
Yeah.
So for listed buildings, I think there has been a kind of like safeguard in that, okay, we don't need to do any work, but it's not the case.
Yeah.
And it's something that at Matrix Chambers I found, and something that we're working with our landlord to push forward. And now that I'm moving over to the Academy of Medical Sciences, is a new thing that we'll have to.
So another project, forward. A similar project that you'd be involved in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it'll be more rather than being part of a group, it'll be leading on it, which would be nice to have that kind of autonomy and more of decision making to be able to make those big decisions and say, okay, well, this is the way we're moving forward. Yeah, because I think sometimes in the groups, it can get diluted or
agreed.
Or there's that saying that I don't 100% agree with, but there's some truth behind it that a camel is a horse designed by a committee. In that, I like it. If you have a vision and you have a goal, you should stick to that goal and stick to that vision, and not to be completely deaf to what everyone else is saying, but it remains more pure. Yeah. And as long as your reasoning is sound and your decisions are backed up by evidence, the product you want is the product you'll have. Yeah.
Okay. That's really interesting. It makes sense, I suppose, in terms of the lighting, especially for a listed building, because most electrics would have been put in within the last 100 years, 120 years, maybe. So it makes sense that it wouldn't affect it because it was a change that was made quite recently, really, in terms of some of the age of some of these buildings.
In terms of the...
In terms of it changing the character of a building by changing the light fittings and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, precisely. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think it's I think it's just easier to say, we're a listed building. So
we don't have to do it. Yeah. So you made it a bit of an excuse, really.
Not to say anything untoward, but I would say that it is just easier. Yeah. And I think bad habits are hard to follow, and good habits are more difficult to follow. Okay. And sometimes you just need someone to come along and just have a bit of positive reinforcement in the right places, because if you steamroll in and try and force something, in a very kind of stubborn and, without much consideration to how the general population are going to receive it, or, whether it's not going to be palatable for public consumption, it's going to be difficult. Yeah. Whereas if you go in there with the correct frame of mind and knowing who you're talking to, and knowing that it's been going the easy route for such a long time, you have to make room for that kind of...
of course, without a doubt. Okay, so what would you say has been, the most challenging period during your career in facilities management, and how did you overcome that challenge?
I think that the most challenging part of my career was to get through COVID. Yeah. I think getting through COVID, I think that the big challenge of shutting down a business, premises, coordinating with staff off-site, moving from premises to off-site, communicating with the whole staff team and a whole team of barristers, is 140 people in total. Yeah. Putting in place plans and procedures and making sure that the building is still safe. I mean, I was going on a weekly basis to make sure that the building was still secure, because our insurance dictated that if we weren't there for a 2-week period, then the property would be designated as vacant, and then the insurance is void. And that's something that we couldn't quite get enough clarification from our insurance provider. Obviously, it was one of those things that happened, and the insurance providers weren't expecting it to happen, and they say, okay, this is a clause we need to look at. Yeah. But just for peace of mind, it would be a case of me going and making sure that everything's safe and secure. And then it was returning. Leaving was easier, but it was returning that was really difficult, because
and the measures you had to put in place to keep people safe.
Everything that you wouldn't even consider on a day-to-day basis. It was now we had to observe it with a microscope. Yeah. And it was making sure that everyone's safe and secure, and some people are a bit more nervous about going in and others aren't. And okay, so what can we do to make sure that A, we can ensure people that this is a safe work environment, and B, if they're still not sure, what can we do to alleviate those worries and alleviate those concerns? And it was really hard, and trying to put all those plans and processes into place, again, being quite fresh into the role, it was challenging. But I was working with a really good supportive group of senior management team, and we put together a group that considered all these things together.
Yeah.
And it was really great working with them all, because we could bounce ideas off of each other, what kind of split we're looking for in terms of the workload, in terms of the work schedule, like how many people do we want to come in? Okay, well, this team can come in these days, that team can come in those days to reduce cross-contamination. What are we going to say to our barristers? So we have the rooms, because the barristers have rooms and we have meeting rooms.
Yeah.
Are we going to say their rooms are still off limits because they have been working from home?
Yeah.
And coming back was definitely a challenge, for every business.
Yeah.
But it was also a challenge in trying to reinforce and re-engage both staff and barristers.
Yeah.
Because that social and professional cohesion that you would get from just day-to-day walking and talking, and I think that working from home, there's definitely a lot of pros.
Yeah.
But I think that it has been an impact on professional and social cohesion, and we're still looking at the effects of that. And some people have recovered from it perfectly, and some people have been working remotely as a business model before COVID.
Well, I mean, that's what I do, fundamentally, and I have done for the last 15 years. So COVID for me, in terms of how I was home a lot more, obviously, because there was no meetings and blah, blah, blah. But I don't think I felt the impact of it in the same way other people did.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, because you had already...
I was used to it.
Yeah.
I hated not being able to leave the house or just being told like an hour. It was like, I was a naughty boy at school. You can't tell me I'm only allowed to go out for an hour,
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So I found that really difficult. But I'm used to interacting with people over the phone, online, because that's kind of what I did anyway. So I don't think it affected me in the same way perhaps it did other people.
Yeah, and it's if you've gone from one way of working to another. Yeah, I think it's definitely more of an impact, and I think that things like professional and social cohesion, whether it's such a natural thing previously, just being in the same space as one another, it will promote it. And, unless you don't really like the people you're working with, you're kind of going to have that natural kind of like collective vibe. And when that gets taken away, and reintroducing it artificially is tricky. Yeah. And you have to then think of different ideas, really simple stuff like, okay, we'll just have more frequent staff lunches, or we have more frequent trips to the pub, or whatever it may be. Yeah. It's kind of artificial. And it's difficult to have a naturally, artificially occurring thing,
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting way to look at it. Yeah, to be fair.
But to be fair, some people absolutely loved it.
Yeah,
if I can wake up, put my slippers on.
They liked it in summer. They liked it in summer. They were fine with it in summer. It was like, in the garden, it's not too bad. This, but. As soon as winter hit, everybody was like, I don't know about this lockdown in December, what's going on?
Oh, my energy bills are really going through the roof.
Yeah, this isn't on, what's going on? Don't like it. Whereas me, I was just tinkering away. To be fair. Okay, well, that's really interesting. So, like, conversely as well, what would you say you feel your greatest achievement is in facilities management?
I would say that my greatest achievement would be... I think more holistically, it has been my transformation and development into a more senior professional in my field. Yeah, I would say on a holistic view, I think that I've had a chance to kind of reflect where I've come from and where I currently am and where I'm moving towards. Yeah, and there are sometimes parts of me that I think, I could have made that progress a lot quicker. I could have made that jump a lot quicker. Yeah. When you have time to reflect and you look back on it and you think, have I kind of gone as far as I'd like to have got? And maybe I could have got there a bit quicker.
I don't know. I think you've done it pretty quick, to be fair.
Yeah, I think it's kind of having devils, have that little devil on your shoulder. Yeah. And the more you pay attention to it, like the bigger it gets. Yeah. And... but I think I am proud in terms of just my development in general, I think I'm proud in how far I've come, and I'm looking at the moment of what my trajectory is going to be for the next year, because I think that a lot of it is going to be down to the habits and routines that I put myself into.
Yeah.
So I think that having goals is a good starting point, but just having a goal isn't enough. And it's about looking at your identity as a person rather than the goal you want to achieve. So I want to lose 10 pounds, or I want to be able to bench 100 keys, or I want to have saved £10,000 in a year's time.
Yeah.
That's like a goal, but it's not the identity of the person that you want to be. So instead of losing 10 pounds, I want to be a healthier person. Instead of being able to bench 100 kilograms, I just want to be stronger. Yeah. Or I want 10 grand in a year's time, I want to be financially independent. Yeah. And I think it's looking at your identity and seeing the person that you want to become and adopting the traits of that type of person. Yeah.
So rather than setting a target, let's say, it's more about taking incremental steps.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and as long as you're heading in that direction.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And because once you reach that goal, then it's kind of over. Then you go, okay, well, what's the next goal? So for me, I'm more kind of on the track of making a small 1% change each day. It's inspired by a book I'm currently reading called Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's a really, really interesting book in avoiding bad habits and adopting good ones. But less about making huge changes like right now and trying to rush to that goal. Okay, what's the small things that you can maintain over a sustained period, over a really long period of time? Just a % change every day that will help you not only achieve your goal, but become the person you want to become. Yeah, which I think is more important.
But I do something similar, but slightly different. Like I always want there to be sort of one positive element from the day. Yeah, whether that's a good interaction, a good conversation, good news in terms of new business or something. I want there to be some kind. And as long as I get that positive interaction each day, it doesn't matter what it is. From a professional perspective, I feel like that's been a good day for me. So that's what I try to work towards. That's similar, I suppose. But
do you have a moment where you say, like, you reflect on it and you say, okay, at the end, like when at the end of your day is, you say, okay, now's the moment to think of it and say, this is.
I'm one of these really weird people that can that can find a positive in pretty much anything. Yeah. So, like, if I get to 4:30 and I haven't had what I think is a positive interaction, I'll just turn one into one. To be fair, I will. You know, because like I want to go home feeling good about the day.
Absolutely.
Because when I was younger in my career, I would let the roles take over. I would let the negative elements take over, and I'd think about them constantly. Yeah. You get all twisted up and all of that stuff. Whereas if I think something positive has happened, I go home in a much better mood.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that I'm always trying to look for something positive to do. Yeah. If you bump into someone who annoys you or upsets you, they're the problem. Yeah. But if you're continually bumping into people or problems or issues throughout the whole day,
you're the problem.
Yeah, without and that. It's all about, like you say, the smallest thing, offering a tube on the train. Yeah. Yeah. Asking someone how their day. There's the small interactions, and I think it's a good positive takeaway from the day. Yeah. And it really helps push that forward. It really helps push you forward. Yeah. And I think that's absolutely right. Not that I'm always offering my seat on the tube. Sometimes I'm like, no.
Yeah, no. Stand up.
It's my seat.
Yeah, it's my seat. I'm having a long day. Leave me alone. Yeah.
In case you see me on the tube.
Yeah. Okay, listen, final question, Frank. I like this question. I ask it sometimes. I don't always ask it. I only ask the people I think can handle it, mate. So that should make you feel good.
Oh, no.
So, we go back in time in the Wear Many Hats time machine. Yeah? To 8 years ago. The new Vic. Okay? It's your first day on the job. Yeah? But Frank knows everything that he knows from Frank in 2024 on that first day in the Vic. Okay. Everything you know now on that first day. Mm-hmm. What does that first week look like in the Vic? What would you do? What would your first actions be?
That's a good one. I think that I would try and meet with absolutely every single person that I could in the business.
Yeah.
Having assumed that the job description has been read and fully understood, I would meet with every single person in the business and say, okay, what do you do? What do you think this role does?
Yeah.
And how do we work together? And how can we work better together? Because I think that stepping into that role, I probably spent a lot of time just kind of guessing and assuming and not really wanting to ask questions because I didn't want to look like I didn't know anything.
I'm really interested. So communication, it sounds to me, is one of the key takeaways that you would get that right from day one.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, because I have this thing of like being really eager to please.
Yeah.
So asking
That's
questions.
the actor in you. Was that okay?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the showman. It's going like,
I can do another take.
Yeah, I can do another take. Do you know this way? Do you know that way? And I would try and establish exactly what this role is.
Yeah.
What it means to people, how it forms part of the organisation.
Yeah.
And once I've established that and look at, okay, this is what this role currently does, what can, if it needs to be maintained, it's doing what it needs to do, how can it be maintained?
Yeah.
And if it's not doing what it's currently doing or it has room for growth, how can it be optimised?
Yeah.
And whenever we had work experience come in, I'd say the tagline of my role, which I like to apply, is that it's the maintenance and optimization of the infrastructure, services, and operations of the business.
Right.
So what am I currently doing? Is that fit for purpose? How do we maintain it? If it's not fit for purpose, how do we optimize?
Right.
So if I was to go back to that young Frank that could lose 10 pounds and bench 100 kilograms.
Yeah.
I'd say...
As a zombie, by the way. This is impressive.
As a zombie. I would say, okay, don't be afraid to ask the questions. Establish this role. Establish where you are in the business and where you need to progress.
Yeah.
And the areas in which you need to progress.
Clear guidelines.
Clear guidelines.
Yeah.
What are you missing? Okay, train for that.
Yeah.
What skills do you need? Okay, train for that as well.
Yeah.
Who are your best contacts?
Yeah.
Okay, set up a group.
Yeah.
Who do you need to frequently contact? Okay, put them on an email distribution group.
Yeah.
That for me, I think is really important.
Avoid committees.
Avoid committee. Apart from the Green Committee. We like the Green Committee.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's
the
just...
Green Committee can make as many camels as it wants.
Yeah, they can go on the camels. So yeah, but I think that's probably born out of probably just really eager to please and not wanting to give the impression that I don't know. But if you don't know, you don't know.
But a lot of people are like that. I think a lot of people are scared to ask questions. They don't want to look at what they would determine to be silly. Because it's our ego, isn't it? And our 100%. Ego, it doesn't matter how old you are, we've all got an ego, and you don't want that ego to be hurt. But the reality is, I think especially in working life, especially FM, I think there's a lot of help out there in it. People understand. There's so much to know in this industry. Nobody can know everything. You know?
Exactly.
And I think a lot of it's networks, isn't it?
A lot of it is networks, and a lot of it's just being just knowing that leaning on other people is not. It's not a weakness.
Right.
And if you don't know the answer to something, just ask the question.
Yeah.
And because you're not going to know otherwise. And it's just having the confidence to be bold in your decisions.
Yeah.
Be bold in what you know and be bold in what you don't know. Exactly. And just putting your hands up and saying, I don't know that, but I know I know the resource or I know the repository of where the information is located.
Yeah. Teamwork and collaboration, I think, are our greatest assets as human beings.
Yeah, 100%.
Our ability to work together.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
Okay, brilliant. All right, well, that's the end of the podcast, Frank. How did you find it?
You know what? It's really nice, guys. I really do appreciate it. Thank you again to Ethan. I apologise for not getting back to you all those months ago. I felt terrible.
Don't worry about it. We all ignore Ethan. Don't worry. He's used to it. Don't worry about it.
No, it's been fantastic. I really do. And I have to say, it was really nice hearing you talk about the course project you've got going on. I've recently had a son. He's old.
Has he?
Yeah, and it's being a dad, I think it kind of changes things.
It does. Well, I've got 3. I'm skint. Everyone says you might be skint, but you're happy. But I'm like,
At least I'm skin.
Yeah. Well, when they talk to me, if they talk to me, it's kind of one of those things. But no, I think you're right. It changes. I think you want to try and do things for the world that you perhaps wouldn't necessarily have done as a younger individual when all you care about is yourself, which is pretty good. So, Frank, that's the end of the program. We always like to find out a little bit about our guests. So tell us a little bit, what do you like doing outside of work?
Oh, that's a good question. So outside of work, well, it's spending time with my son.
Yep.
Is really, really important to me. Anything we can do, we'll absolutely do. I do still like to be creative. So I have that creativity. So
you're never going to lose that, are you?
Never going to lose it. No. I have my creative outlet in that I like to think of screenplays.
Oh, really?
And I challenge myself to write them within a certain amount of time. And then I just put them to one side.
Am I perhaps sitting in front of the English version of Quentin Tarantino? Maybe.
I wish.
Am I going to get an invite to the BAFTAs one day, mate? That's what I want to
know. In my mind, I'm hoping that I'm going to write this like a whole bunch of screenplays, and then someone's going to move into my house. I'm not going to have moved them, and they'll go, "Oh my God, this guy can write." And I'll get invited and go, "Oh wow, yeah, Scorsese wants to read my script." That's what goes through my head.
Yeah,
but it's never going to happen.
We don't know though. It only takes one.
Yeah, no, it only takes
J.K. Rowling didn't write anything decent until she was 39 years old or something, I think, and then she wrote The Philosopher's Stone. I think she'd write or tried to write a number of books but not written them in the way that she wanted to. Well, yeah, I mean, Tolkien didn't get published until he was in his 50s, did he?
Really?
Yeah, I'm sure he was in his 50s or something like that.
All right,
I could be wrong, but there's plenty of people out there that chased it, and then eventually something came together for them.
50. I'm going to cancel my career in FM now and go back to back to the boards.
Well, if you do get a smash hit, remember where it all started. Do you know what I mean? You might get a call off some casting director off the back of this show, mate.
Well, I'm going to share it profusely just in case it.
As long as you say thank you when you're on the Jonathan Ross show, mate. Just a big shout out to Mark. I'll be quite happy. Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, Frank. Thank you very much. I think our listeners will take a lot from this episode. Especially people, as you said, that have a dream and sometimes that dream doesn't work out and they end up doing something different. But it's good that different thing that they're doing, they can get as much from as you're clearly getting from facilities management.
Mm-hmm. Lovely.
So,
thank you very much.
Absolute pleasure to have you.
Pleasure.
Really appreciate it. Okay, listeners, that's the end of another great episode. If you want to reach out to Frank at all, feel free. He's on LinkedIn. I'm sure that he's more than happy to offer advice. As ever, follow and share the page. Let's get a little bit. Let's go viral. Why don't we go viral? I really want to go viral. Somebody make us go viral, right? Support us. Yeah, we're doing a good thing. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.